Hey, welcome to Watchmen Waiting on the Lord. We're all waiting for Jesus Christ to come. It'll be the most glorious day, and it's coming soon. I know it's coming soon. I can tell by all the things that are happening in the world. Just, like how he explains in the birth pains. How could he have been more clear, right? It's to me, it's most apparent in the weather patterns. It's like they've completely turned on their head, and so I'm going to go through this. Just before I start, so this is a news. I'm gonna do news from now on, but I bought the MacArthur Study Bible, and I've gone through Bible and I've gone through commentaries, and there's a lot of good stuff, but I'll tell you. Not to say that everything that he says is correct, but I mean they did it with a whole, they did it with a big team. It wasn't just him. It's 3,500 pages, and so I'm on Genesis. I'm just going right from the beginning, and I find in the passage right underneath it gives a lot of good explanation under each chapter. It gives it. It's just, I wanted something all in one place just so I could go from beginning to end. So I've been studying that lately. Happy Sabbath, by the way. A lot of people don't believe in celebrating the Sabbath day, but God did put a holy seal on that commandment. He blessed that day and hallowed it, and so that's why I observe it. Not asking others to do it. So here we go. Where I live, talking about weather. All my life I've been interested in, hurricanes, tornadoes. I just thought those things always interested me. I always wanted to see a tornado. I always wanted to be around a natural disaster. Just for the rush of it. And so I'm almost 45, and so I've been here my whole life, and I hadn't really seen many things. And there are some pretty crazy thunderstorms that happen around here, but that's about as far as it goes. A few years ago, there was a tornado, which hadn't seen around here before. I think there were two, and then the next year there was another one, and then the year after that, which was last summer? Yeah, was it Jericho? We had a tornado in the city this year. Like, it's just absolutely crazy. I've lived here 45 years, and the Jericho was insane. But yesterday I went out and I went on my bike to go sell beeswax candles, and when I went outside, the clouds were so black, and I could later see on the weather network it showed a rolling formation of clouds going over the river. Like you just don't see clouds that around here. These are like shelf clouds, things we never used to get. And so these are things all over the world. 25 million acres of Canadian. I gotta make sure this is recording. I don't even know if I hit record. Yeah. 25 million acres have burned so far in the forest fires, and if you look back at my videos, I leave an attachment that shows that in northern Quebec, at least, it looks to have started purposely. Do I believe they were started purposely? Yes, I do. Absolutely. And now there's like almost 1,000 fires. Who knows how big it'll get? I think it's the second biggest ever in history now. Russia had one that was 55 million, and by the end of this, I'm sure we'll get up to that. So we'll make the record, I believe, because we are just getting into fire season right now, and there's so much dryness and drought. You'd have to see the satellite images of like about 25 fires starting all at once on a clear day. Satellite images don't lie. So how about the weather around the world? such a short time, it's gotten rather acute. So would you agree with me? It's acute. If you don't recognize, and this is what I'd say to people who don't believe in God, I say, you don't believe what I'm telling you, what's coming, just pay attention to the weather alone, then come to your conclusion. Hopefully you'll believe. If you don't recognize something as a matter by now, you're lost, likely in a climate change lie. What scientists don't let on is that top scientists are actually being silenced in either articles, the news, YouTube, because the media is owned, okay? The media is owned, so you don't. Both the internet, things can be scrubbed off, and we know the media is owned. So what they're saying that actually we need more CO2. In cancel culture, that's what they do. That's what they can do. The real ones say, the real scientists say, we actually need more CO2. It's more CO2 in our atmosphere. It creates more green vegetation on the earth. It's called a reprobate mind, these people. Do you know when COVID shut a lot of stuff down? There was a lot less cars on the road because of, less traveling to work. Probably a lot of trucks from businesses stopped. And so CO2 went higher, not lower. What does that say? But you know what? No matter what you tell them, they're not going to listen. And I'm talking about them as in like WEF, all those types of, and higher ups, and also just regular people. The World Economic Forum will still push it anyhow. No matter what our climate does, they will adjust their plans to it. If the planet freezes, they will change their agenda to suit it. So they've grabbed hold. After COVID, they've got a tight grip now. You know that. Did you know in the 1970s it was global cooling, and they were trying to melt the icebergs? They were actually trying to melt the icebergs. Then they came to the conclusion that they couldn't do it. You would have to use like atomic bombs to do that. In biblical terms, they are leaves blowing in the wind with every change. Think how reprobate they are by this comparison. After COVID, the globalists won't let go of their agenda. If you look at the volcanoes, fires, like Canada, which have burned 25 million acres, what they hope to achieve by 2030 with trillions of dollars, and China and India aren't even entering into the Green Deal. There's other countries that aren't either. They can't hope to remove as much CO2 as these fires in Canada are creating. So think about that. As much as a single natural disaster does, these people are hoping to reverse just a portion of that. It's a farce. One volcano going off is more than humans emit for years, or at least a year. So that's what I call reprobate thinking. They're going to waste trillions of dollars on they're going to waste it. Seared mines with a hot iron. The problem is that your everyday person doesn't know this. You see how the military-industrial complex of the States, Britain, and France won't let go of Ukraine, and they only seem to up the ante. Getting out of breath. Does it strike you strange that so much evil has been done since the start in early 2022? When the war began, the world's weather, inflation, rumors of war skyrocketed and continued in a non-ending cycle of disasters. So the way I saw it was inflation went up, and that was due to Biden administration. Make no mistake about that. I watched that. But everything seemed to just cascade after that point. There were things happening before then, but from that point, that's how I see it. I can't help but think that the Holy Spirit may be letting go, or has. So I don't take a 7-year tribulation. I don't believe in that. I think we're starting to go through tribulation. We're like right before it. I think that it may be letting go, or it at least is starting to let go. Look up that passage. Uh, I forget exactly where it is. I know Paul wrote that. I just can't think offhand. Uh, Nowhere does it say how fast that might happen. My view differs from most because I believe the Antichrist is the papacy. I recall making a Facebook post when one volcano after the other occurred. So I put up like a lot of warnings. If I post something on Facebook, it's about a warning about God. I've been interested in weather events my whole life. I know when something isn't right. When I posted something about, I'm seeing one volcano wake up after the other, one of my friends said, well, he obviously looked and it said 80 eruptions occur each year. But when I pointed out those are regular occurring ones, so the ones in Hawaii that go off all the time, those are the ones he's pertaining to. I'm not going to name them all, but it began with that gigantic ocean volcano. I think it was called Tonga, and it was in the ocean. Pardon, give me a second. I got to take a break because of my voice here, my stomach. We wouldn't have known that went off if it wasn't for satellite. So it was in the middle of the ocean. It was called Tonga. It was so large and it spewed superheated water vapor in the upper atmosphere, which actually cooled our planet by 1 degree. It wasn't detected by humans because it was in the ocean. Then another one in Russia caused 6 inches of ash in eastern Siberia or something, over 150,000 square kilometers. And it was pretty close to America. Flights were canceled in Russia and the western US. One after the other, they'll just continue to wake. Mexico, you think of the Philippines. And these are ones like one after the other will continue to awake. That's my promise here right now on this video. I've made a lot of promises. I'm making promises that Jesus made, okay, about weather. And I've been doing that for a long time and they're all coming to pass, right? I'm not a prophet. And they'll continue to awake from old, ancient, dormant volcanoes. 18 of them now. In a period of 1 year from when I mentioned my first one, there's been 18. Krakatoa. Look up that volcano, what that did. In 1883, I believe. I did a project on that when I was in grade 6. It's awoken again. Vesuvius has too. I did a project on, so Krakatoa, it was heard all the way in South America. It was such a loud bang, it was heard all the way in South America from the other side of the world. It was so big that the volcano was vaporized, the whole mountain vaporized. And another one grew in its place called a baby Krakatoa, I think, and that's awakening. Okay, different subject. I don't know if I gotta check my thing here because sometimes my camera stops the video because of the connection on my computer, so I can't touch it. I don't condone cluster munitions and war. I don't condone war. I don't know why there's such a big fuss about that. Like, I see why there is. Because Russia is the one who began with when they began with thermobaric weapons that melt you and suck the air from you. And you need to fight fire with fire, right? Listen, I don't condone any of this, and I know the West was a belligerent to cause this Ukraine to happen, okay? You have to know how, that I absolutely believe the West caused this to happen from 2014. Um, that's just my opinion on that. The globalists. So I don't at all condone what Putin did, but he probably felt he had to do something to keep NATO off his doorstep. If you go to fight someone with a bat and the guy has a gun, you get my point. I don't pay much attention to the Ukraine war. There's just so much confusion. What I do know is they must be out of men and properly trained troops. They're not out of men, but like so many have died that, it appears the U.S. is building an army on the Russian border, and from what I heard, I don't know if it's true, to reach 1 million men eventually. I fear the U.S. will do a draft. I wouldn't put anything past this current administration. They're doing everything they can to use Ukrainians and give them weapons to do it for them. It almost appears like World War II, that the British and French were fighting and the Americans were on the sidelines and not losing bodies and making all the ammunition, and for that matter, making a lot of money. That's how the military-industrial complex began. It almost feels though that could change. We're living in an evil time, and people don't just want money but power and influence. I know it's always been about power and influence. It's a little different right now in a different way. If you recall everything Joe Biden has said he would do in the United States and during this war and other places, he has done just the opposite. He's messed everything up, all the way from the Afghanistan withdrawal to everything he's done. Do I believe it's on purpose? Yes. I don't think anyone could mess up that many times. It's hard to watch and learn from that. People don't think the U.S. is in Bible prophecy, but I think they will be front and center because, look, we're in end times and they appear to be in it, don't they? Just because it's not in the Bible doesn't mean, like, I just happen to think so. I happen to think in Revelations they are the beast of the earth. An extension of Rome. It appears that Biden is turning on Israel. Why is that? Is it the U.S. or is it just Joe Biden and his administration? I ask because it's the same with that bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, and I wouldn't say I'm on their side, but like I kind of take their side from the way Joe Biden is doing things with them. God will bless those who bless him and curse those who curse him, and you wonder why there are endless natural disasters. That occurs when anyone in any country attempts to partition Israel's land. There's no proof of that, but that's what I believe. It seems to happen. Every time someone tries to talk and partition their land, there's a natural disaster within a week. Never try to take Israel's land or suffer the consequences. It's apparent that flooding is taking a toll on many countries. New York State, Vermont floods were close to my own city. They were just hours away. You hear on the news, they call them 1,000-year events. Didn't they just say that months ago with the flash flood in Orlando, Florida? Both had massive amounts of rain in such short periods of time. It happened in more than a few places in the U.S. What just happened in New York, Vermont, was 8 inches of rain. Can you imagine that in one rainfall? But can you imagine this? Orlando was 24 inches in a couple, and maybe it was just one place, but maybe it was a large area. 24 inches of rain in just 10 to 15 hours. I don't know the science, but when you get droughts in one area, it adversely affects another. There's killer droughts, and I knew last year after what happened with all the droughts, I knew it was going to come right back. It was so obvious. If you look at prophecy, the United States is suffering brutal heat waves, and as the rest of the globe. Jesus told us it would be this way. Floods in India, Australia, China. Since I've done this, there's so many more, man. So many landslides. The birth pains are moving along as you foretold. It used to be one big disaster every few weeks, but now it's multiple per week or even per day. It's per day now. Do we get breaks? Not really, do we? Politics, war, weather. Every facet of society is in upheaval. How long will it? My volume on this for somehow has been messed up. I don't know why. Turn your thing up. I don't know why it's done it. I check my volume on here, it's fine. I check my volume on this, I didn't change anything, so pardon, give me a break. I always do this, and I think that's short, but my article is long. Pardon me. I have dysphonia of my throat, so RFK. If you don't know yet, RFK Jr. He has a worse form of what I have. He has laryngeal dystonia. I have muscle tension dysphonia. They have a lot of parallels. This is non-psychological, and anxiety can affect it, but it's not caused by that. I don't know why it's caused. I have to give myself breaks. Like I talk and it's louder sometimes than I want to do, and a lot of times it's lower than I want to do. Politics, war, weather, the longer I talk, the worse it gets. I will get worn out. Every facet of society is in upheaval. How long will it take this time? With even worse heat records that are broken repeatedly, continental wide, when will the rivers dry up? Remember how close the Mississippi River was to halting the tug traffic? Those tugs are paramount to get food across the U.S. The Colorado or Lake Mead, Hoover Dam nearly endangered 40 million or more in California. People don't understand how close they are to destruction. It's such a fine line. God is the only one who can fill that fine line. No matter how many weather disasters there are, the reason people won't choose to believe in God will be persistent scientific explanations. Can't you see the difficulty with science versus faith? Charles Darwin, when he came in 1844, that's when he originally wrote that messed up a lot of stuff. The sun and solar storms are making the planet extremely hot, something climate scientists can't blame on CO2 emissions. Oh yeah, I believe they're gonna kill 200,000 cattle in Ireland because of CO2 emissions. Don't be fooled by scientific data or papers, because many of these scientists are paid off. No matter what disaster of climate comes their way, they blame it on cows or cars. They're such low emitters. And then fertilizer. Speaking of cows, they want to kill off 20,000 cattle to offset CO2 in Ireland. I just heard that Scotland took down 16 million trees to put in wind farms. That's 10% of their total cattle of 2 million, sorry. And that 10% is where the money is made. Can't you see how they are gradually, by trickery, sorcery, taking people's livelihoods away, our land and food, our kids, through indoctrination? The WF wants us dead. I see many of the WF plans originating from Europe. A lot of the problem is Europe. What I'm saying is the European Union is spreading her errors across the globe. I think Europe is messed up. So is North America, but I think a lot of the ideas coming from there. I believe the EU is in Revelations. UFOs. When I believed in the pre-tribulation rapture, it made perfect sense to me. I don't know if I have to make another video. That the deception spoken of in Matthew 24 could be aliens. If people suddenly disappeared, meaning demons, that's one I believed in it. Meaning demons, fallen angels, really, would tell everyone it was UFOs and that, see my voice is going, that was UFOs and that they're aliens. I'm a post-trib believer, but I see why you might think that. Even without that belief, if they appeared to us, they could still use an excuse telling that there's no God. and that they wrote the Bible. I mean, they're having all these hearings and stuff. I don't know what to believe. No, I don't believe anything until I see something, sorry. Why do you think it's important to know the Bible? So you aren't tricked by whatever comes your way. Do I believe this could happen and that demons would pose as aliens? I do. But I'm always on the lookout for deception. Let me break down what I know. My own background is I've had sleep paralysis about 100 episodes in 3 years. I no longer get that because I stopped all ungodly behaviors. Yes, you can still get them, but not as much. I've seen what I would probably say are the Nephilim in these episodes, and they are oppressive and nasty. They're oppressive. They're evil. Only once did I see one close up, and it had black eyes. It was grabbing me by my collar. This creature was grabbing my collar and staring at me. I can see why people call in to say they were abducted by aliens. Anyone who's had an episode, can you see why they would call it one? I believe most episodes of the supposed alien abductions were really sleep paralysis. You can fall asleep anywhere, like your car or bed. All you have to do is fall asleep to get it. I had enough episodes to know that they are pure evil. And it's uniform across the world, no matter what religion it is. If I started sinning against God today, I would have one tonight. All it takes is a single sexual immoral act to bring it on. That's pretty telling. So what I'm expressing is that I know they're real, and I've spoken to more than a few people who have had the same. Why does everyone think it's evil or experience evil unlike a dream or nightmare? It's different. That's why I take them seriously. Are they in our temporal world now? That I don't know. My first episode, I thought I was in hell. I learned to call Jesus' name as I learned about them, and they magically ended. That's what a lot of happens in the people I've read. Most people heard the Nevada UFO story just a couple months ago now, or was it a month or whatever. Also, they're telling us in the US that they have 12 alien craft not of this world, and even alien specimens or aliens themselves. Aside from God, I don't believe anything until I see it. People going crazy over something they haven't ever seen. Is this all just a smoke screen? It could be, and who knows what they're doing behind our backs, right? At the same time. And why does it need to be now? See, that's the only reason I take it seriously, because all other end time signs are here in convergence. Jesus' first comment was, don't be deceived in the last days. So I don't know yet if it's climate change, which is one of them, one of the lies. But the papacy, I believe, is one of the part of it, and now aliens. Another good question would be why the U.S. is the one to always have these events or craft, or they just silence other people and announce it to the world. The United States now has modern enough lasers to use from space to make anything appear like UFOs in cities in the sky, anywhere they want. China made a city appear in the sky. That's what people have been claiming to see. All those craft we see on camera that they catch on infrared or forward-looking infrared could be space lasers, because they have real radar cross sections. Think about that. Those lasers can beam down things on Earth that look real and have radar cross sections. They are not stealth. I heard it said by the U.S. that they could make fleets of military ships that show up on radar. Imagine that in battle. Sorry, I've got to take a break here. I'm going to take about 20 seconds here. This has really hurt me socially. Can't begin to tell you. That's how advanced we are. And people are unlearned about how advanced we might be. If the Avro Arrow from Canada in 1957 Well, they had these little dinky jets, the first jets. Canada had the Avro Arrow. Could fly better than an F-18 or equal to an F-18 Hornet now. And the SR-71 was in the 1960s, 1970s, and it could achieve supercruise, which means sustained afterburner Mach speed, and make it around the world in hours. How much further in 50 years are we? Those things are made by the States, most likely. Those things that you see. They're made or they're by lasers. And yes, I do believe they could be by fallen angels, absolutely. I'll see to believe, right? They can and do hide secrets, despite what people think. All I can say is to be on guard, to use wise discernment. You'd think they would make a big fuss and quiet down, but that's not what's happening. And that's why it feels different. The UFO narrative just keeps getting pushed from all angles. Remember when they said gas stoves were a hidden danger? And they said they weren't going to ban them, but then they are. Now I heard they're going to ban gas-powered generators. Think about that. By the Biden administration, the world is being lured into a snare slowly. And how much of this was created by the elite and WF to bring about all these changes, taking away our ability to sustain ourselves. That's their plan. They want to control us electrically, so the next time you think Elon Musk is a hero, remember what he's developing. AI in your brain, electric cars that can be shut off instantly. Like he's $300 billion. He's got $300 billion. And they spontaneously combust, not just when they're soaked in water either. Especially in water, he helped develop ChatGPT and now robots. Okay, I see nothing good about that. He plays the hero, guys. Even if it turned out that he's not evil, he's doing the opposite of what humans truly need. He is paramount to building Babylon, in case you haven't seen it. He looks like some kind of social hero, but in reality, he's building our own prisons. One thing bothers me about mega billionaires. I recall someone criticizing him for not giving to charity, in which he replied that charities are scams. That bothered me because if he's got so much ingenuity, why doesn't he directly help a cause and make sure they get the money or whatever they need? Surely he can do that if he can put stuff in space. What would you do? $5 billion to feed Africa for 1 year. Yes, there are warring factions there, but you can still feed a lot of people. It's really not my own business, but you have to wonder how someone with 300 billion doesn't do such a thing, or the rest of them. This is common with most billionaires. People tend to give to charity so they can claim it on their taxes, and that defeats the purpose. I only saw last week a map of the oceans of the world and their heat signatures. I'm just going to let this go, see if it uploads. If it doesn't, then I can't do it again. I believe the average temperatures went up by 4 degrees in the oceans, which is quite big. Considering all the flooding and drought we see globally, it's strange that no hurricanes have begun. The water off Florida is nearly 100 degrees. Think about that. That's like a hot bath. The hand of God is in the water. I feel that when storms break loose, they'll be terrible with this heating water. Let's hope not. The hurricane season hasn't begun, guys. For a scientific reason, I forget what it is. The winds are being held back for some reason. When it comes. We know that for the Antichrist to appear, the falling away must come first. Falling away in Greek means apostasy. So falling away in Greek is apostasy. Never have I seen so much of that in blatant disrespect for Christianity. This is how the falling away began. 30 or 40 years ago, can priests or pastors be gay? And it was clear they couldn't because it broke God's laws. No different with outside the church. It crept in. Then gay marriage, then women pastors and priests, and trans pastors who are absolutely butchering the Bible and making a fake Bible up. I've seen plenty of church services, trans and lesbians, the whole thing. I don't judge others, okay? I don't judge others, but when it comes to the church, I do. I love God's laws about the church, and this is God's divine way. Is a great falling away occurring as I speak? If Paul came back today and saw a transvestite giving a sparkle ceremony and going up and down the aisle showing his ass, in replacement of regular services, and saw trans men twerking with children around, what do you think he would do? The answer is yes, and it's happening around the world, certainly the States. I don't know what I did here. Stop for a second. Who do you think I'm pretending? Yeah, and who isn't saying anything about it? Who do you think I'm pertaining to? The Pope. 1.4 billion people he's got under him. That's his territory and responsibility to speak up. The unthinkable is happening. I'm not old enough to remember I'm old enough to remember that when there were no gay priests. I don't know, I kind of messed this part up. I'll just go on to the next. I remember when there was none of that. On to Israel. I don't know the politics of Israel and the Knesset. They voted Netanyahu in for a reason, and it was for judicial reform. In any case, those protests won't stop. If you stop to consider, these protests are likely backed up by George Soros and people in the West and even the U.S. government. Because look, and I heard that, I don't know if it's true, but would you doubt that? If they have Kamala Harris going to African countries trying to export cash for LGBTQ rights, then it's almost assured. George Soros has caused single-handedly so much damage in respect to a communist agenda through our children, and it won't stop at his death because he has a son carrying on his wishes. The only thing you need to know is this: if Netanyahu backed away from judicial reform, would the protests halt? And the answer is no, meaning there's an agenda behind it. Netanyahu is a solid and prosperous leader. People in North America won't protest over anything less those trucker convoys in Canada than the U.S. It makes me wonder if they know just how precarious the situation is getting with Iran-backed proxies. I know they say there's 150,000 rockets aimed at them, but I wonder how many of them are only just small. When they shot the first 20 to 30, I believe they're only 155 millimeter rockets or smaller, which is equal to a regular artillery shell. To provide you with an idea, on the Western Front in World War I, which I know quite a bit about, they could go through that in 1 hour. In World War I, they launched millions of shells in single battles in a day in small areas. I have a picture of artillery shells up to the people's waists, up to their waists, spent artillery shells as far as the eye can see. Pardon, give me a break here. I'm just going to let it run on. So I copied this. It just says millions of shells were like my voice is going. Were fired in single battles, with 1 million shells alone fired by the Germans at the French in the first day in 1916 at the Battle of Verdun. The Battle of Verdun alone, the French fired 10 million shells, not including all other types of bullets and mortars, grenades. I don't say this to minimize Israel's threats, but possibly most of these rockets are unguided. It's the precision guided munitions that are the issue. They aren't in an enviable position, but their military is powerful enough to destroy all incoming enemies. What troubles me the most is how The United States is backing away from Israel. You can see the type of administration Biden wants, so it's no surprise. I hear people like what they're doing is what those people are protesting. They're like the same as the Biden administration. That's how I feel. I hear people say they don't need the United States, but I don't agree at all, because where do you think all their aircraft came from? In 67 and 73, the U.S. was paramount to providing them with ammunition. I'm aware what will happen to Israel's enemies if they cross the mountains, what God will do to them. I'm almost done. I hope this uploads. Yeah, it causes me anxiety because I don't want to do this again. Gog's army is destroyed. This is Ezekiel. And you, son of man, prophesy against Gog and say, thus says the Lord God, behold, I'm against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal, and I will turn you around and lead you on. I'm not saying that's Russia, but I believe it is. Bringing you up from the far north. Oops. Got my battery low. Just gotta check that didn't cut my video off. And bring you against the mountains of Israel. Then I will knock the bow out of your left hand and cause the arrows to fall out of your right hand. This is coming, this battle, sometime. You shall fall upon the mountains of Israel, you and all your troops and the peoples who are with you. I'll give you to the birds of prey of every sort and to the beasts of the field to be devoured. You shall fall on the open field, for I have spoken, says the Lord. I will send fire on Magog and on those who live in security in the coastlands. Then they shall know that I am the Lord. So I will make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them profane my holy name anymore. Then the nations shall know that I am the Lord, the Holy One in Israel. Surely it's coming, and it shall be done, says the Lord God. This is the day of which I have spoken. That's a prophecy coming against. That's supposed to be in the latter days. And we're certainly in the latter days. How far, I don't know. It's not looking good. You can just tell by the catastrophes everywhere in the world. They're insane. I've never seen droughts like this. I've never seen storms like this. Places are getting huge hailstorms, huge floods. Like, there's floods everywhere. So you can see how people are going to be tricked into this climate thing, right? I have a good point to make. I understand Jews are blind to Jesus, but not all of them, but there's a very small remnant. But considering Revelations, the book of Revelations is coming to life with a one world religion, money system, and government in the works. Also Matthew 24, it's the roadmap of the end. With all these natural calamities and the way people are today, how can they possibly miss the accuracy of the New Testament with Jesus' words? It gets to my heart that they're not able to see it. It's baffling, and I wish they could. I'm sure some do and are being converted, and pray for that, right? Paul was clear about the latter days, what they would look like. I don't know how much more accurate you can get with prophecy. So thanks for watching today's video. I hope it uploads. It gives me anxiety because I've never done a video this long, and I don't want it to go to waste. So yeah, if you're in all this, if you're in these natural catastrophes, then I pray for you.